Thank you for listening to the Golden Hour Drip podcast with me, Logan Lee Miller. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to the Golden Hour Drip podcast. I'm your host, Logan Lee Miller. I hope that you're having a wonderful day. I know that I'm having a great day, except for one little small baby little thing. I was getting ready, and every time I look in the mirror, I'm reminded that I'm having a huge breakout on the side of my face. I don't know what it is. I've changed my pillowcases. I've disinfected my phone. I'm fed up. Okay. I have a whole cluster of cystic, deep, really painful pimples on the side of my face. And I am just so annoyed, to be honest. I've swapped out a couple products because of this. The previous product I was using had worked for like quite some time. It was doing a great job. And then with it not getting better, I keep having like in the middle of my cheeks pimples, and I'm not sure what it is. I seriously, I've washed my brushes. I've done everything, and I am so just tired of it, to be honest. I have beside me a little Glossy supplement. So one of my favorite creators, Lori Harder, she has, it's kind of crazy. I've actually followed her for a really long time, like 2019. And during the pandemic, her podcast episodes really helped me. So if you haven't already, check her out. But she started a brand, I want to say it was like 2022. And it was supposed to be like an alcoholic beverage, but from then she's like pivoted to something different. And she shared about her journey and things like that. But during the Powerhouse Women conference, there was a little booth. We were able to try the supplement, and I'm like, you know what? I have been having the worst breakouts in my adulthood. Like, I've never had pimples like this when I was a kid. Like I got hormonal acne every once in a while, but it really wasn't that big of a deal. And I am on my period, and maybe that's just with like my getting older and like my hormones acting in a different way, and that's fine. But my face is like really starting to irk me off. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to sign up for this. I tried it. It tasted well at the conference. I was like, okay, like a little bit of a lemonade situation. I ordered a box and it just got shipped to me. So this is day 2 of trying it. Like I said, it tastes like a lemonade. It's pretty good. And hopefully, I'll start glowing from the inside out. I also swapped my Civ product. I'm trying a CBD oil. I cannot remember what the product is called. It's a super luxe face oil. If you follow me on YouTube separately from the Golden Hour Drip, if you follow me like my vlogs at Logan Lee Miller, I'm recording an episode. So if it's not, I think it'll post next week, but next Saturday, you should expect it to be up. And I talk about the face oil in it. So I started trying that, but I am just like so annoyed, and I'm trying literally everything to just kind of like combat it. And still, I don't know, right before this episode, I dermaplaned my face. So I have a medical grade, razor, and I have dermaplaned my face a couple times, actually, like for a while. Since I was in college, I've dermaplaned my face, and I know that helps remove some of the dead skin cells, and so that makes me feel better. I also just like the look of having a shaved face. Obviously, I have a lot of baby hairs, and my makeup just lays so much smoother, but also it helps with like cell turnover and things. So I'm all about that. But yeah, my face is just giving me heck, and I'm like, oh, like I still have to show up. I still have to like present my face, and I teach yoga class twice a week. I have to be in front of people. Like, it doesn't matter how I feel. Like I have to be in front of people. And like before, like the office, like when I worked not remotely, I would see people and I would wear makeup every day. And I remember how like my face would make me feel in those moments. But now if I'm having like a breakout and I'm at home, it's not a big deal. When I have to teach a yoga class and my face is breaking out, maybe it's an early morning class or whatever, I don't necessarily like wearing foundation in the studio because I don't want to clog my pores. I want to show up as like my most natural self, and I love wearing makeup, but for different things. Like my classes are heated, so I want the benefits of having a heated room. I want to sweat. I don't want to have to worry about like my makeup transferring or anything like that. And this morning I was subbing for a class and I was like, okay, I'm going in. It's not a studio I usually teach at, and I looked in the mirror. I didn't have enough time to put on makeup, but I looked in the mirror to like throw my hair up, and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, like my skin looks so inflamed on my cheek. People are going to notice that my face is breaking out, right? Like that's what I was thinking in my head. I had to take a pause and realize that what might seem like a big deal to us usually isn't as noticeable to someone else. And if they do notice it, they're not going to say anything about it because that would be rude. Right? Like when we have nice humans. And I was just thinking, there's no reason for me not to show up as my most confident self. It doesn't matter if I have like a cystic acne on the side of my face. It doesn't matter if I didn't cover it up, or maybe it's like protruding, it's a little big. Like it doesn't matter because it doesn't determine my worth. It's something so temporary. In a couple weeks, like it'll clear up. I'll have a pimple in a different spot. But acne is just it's literally surface level. It's on your face, and it can feel like the end of the world. But honestly, like I remember watching, I want to say like Bachelor in Paradise or something, a couple years ago. And I noticed like a little pimple on one of the contestants' face. And I was like, oh, like you can hardly notice it. But then I put myself in her shoes and I was like, oh my gosh, if I was on national television and I knew that I had like a pimple on my face, like I would feel like it was the end of the world. But here I noticed it and I didn't think any less of that person. I didn't think, oh my gosh, like she that's disgusting. Like she shouldn't have that. No, like acne is something everybody deals with, and little pimples popping up, like we can try our hardest to prevent them, but sometimes it's not preventable and they will pop up, and it's annoying for sure, but you just have to like roll with the punches and allow yourself to be a human and allow yourself to just think, oh gosh, like this does not define my worth. It is nothing tied to how I'm going to show up. So I taught my yoga class and I was like, you know what, I'm going to forget about it, because you only notice it when you're staring in the mirror, or when you turn on a camera and you're like, oh gosh, like I can see it. But if you allow your mind to forget about it, if you're just like present in the moment, it's so minuscule, it will slowly like start to float away. So I am trying to combat my acne, right? Like I switched out my bedding again. I've disinfected my phone. I'm trying to supplement my skin. I'm drinking enough water, all of the things, but it does get to you sometimes. It's like, oh, that's so annoying. So annoying. But on a happier note, let's talk about my peak and my pit of the week. My peak of the week, I got to go vintage Chief shopping. So this upcoming week, I have a networking event that I'm hosting. We are going to see the preseason for the Chiefs versus the Bears. I'm really, really excited. I know this past Saturday, it was the Lions versus the Chiefs, because we almost went to that game. And I put it out there. I was like, okay, where do we want to go? Like, what do we want to be a part of or whatever? And everybody chose the Thursday game. So I'm really excited for like a weekday game, getting into the mindset of, okay, like it's football season. I am not necessarily like a sports girl. I love sports. I do. But for me, it's like the social aspect, right? And that's why people join sports, is because they want the community. They want to get better every single day. And those are things I can get behind. So I am a sports lover, if you will. But with the Chiefs, I just think it's so fun. We can get together. We can cheer on our favorite team, whether it is the Chiefs or something else, wherever you're listening, or whatever sport you prefer. But I went shopping for a couple shirts. I am not sure if it's going to rain or not on Thursday. They had like a 50% chance a couple days ago when I first checked, but I'm not sure if it's actually going to rain or if it's just going to be really hot, like 90s. And I find it so fun to like have a purpose for thrifting, right? I've talked about thrifting quite a lot in the last month, but I just love to have a little a goal, if you will, like a quest. Okay, here I am. I'm going through the thrift store. I'm looking for something Chiefs themed, or I'm looking for a dish to serve at Thanksgiving or whatever, like whatever your quest is. It can be whatever you pick. And as I'm like walking down the aisles, I'm trying to find like the Chiefs section. My friend Hannah at the Trove in downtown Lee Summit, she has some vintage shirts and jerseys and things there. So I stopped there first and I looked around. I saw some really cute things, but my shirt, I need my shirt to be like a little bigger, and hers were like fitted at the top. So I was like, dang it, because I really wanted to buy one from her shop. And I ended up going around the corner to a thrift store and I found a couple vintage shirts there. And so I was really excited. They were like the size I was wanting. I wanted something baggy. Like I didn't want something super fitted, because I wanted to be like a little bit oversized and possibly like tuck it into a pair of shorts. And then, oh my gosh. So of course, like shopping is fun, right? Like I love to go shopping. I like to find that certain item. But as I was going through, I found the perfect little Chiefs bomber. So if you know what I'm talking about, it's like a rain slicker, almost like a puff coat, old style kind of like sweatshirt situation. And it was the perfect size, perfect color. Oh my gosh. I couldn't believe it. I popped it on. There's no like dressing room at the thrift store, which can be annoying. I went to Red Racks and I like threw it on. I was like, okay, like this is looking good. This is looking fresh. And then I ended up getting 2 or 3, I think I got 3 shirts, as well. And I was just elated. I had found a light gray Chiefs shirts, 2 red Chiefs t-shirts, both like different styles, if you will, and then this like red puffer jacket almost, but it's not like super puffy. It's more like windbreaker stuff. I don't know what to call them, to be honest, but super, super cute. So if it does rain, if it gets a little cold, and of course, like going into Thanksgiving, Christmas, I'm pretty sure the Chiefs are playing on Christmas Day. So even then, like I have a little pullover, a windbreaker pullover. Maybe that's what they're called. But it's literally, it is the perfect size. It is so cute. But that's not the best part. So I also picked up like a little Halloween Christmas, or it's not a Christmas tree, it's a Halloween tree. If you've watched Harry Potter, think of like the willow tree, the little like haunted or cursed, what the heck, that tree in one of the movies. I can't even think about it. That's when you know it's time to watch Harry Potter again. We watch it every single year in the Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas season. But in I want to say it's like the Whomping Willow or something. It's probably totally off. Anyways, it looks just like that, where it's like twisted and binded. And then they had a couple ornaments on it. There's a little cat with green eyes. There's a jack-o'-lantern. There's a spooky bat. There's a ghost. There's a skeleton head, and then there's a skeleton body. And he has like little, like he's movable. He's not like super stiff. And in his arms is like a little black cat. It's super, super cute. And I can't believe I found it at a thrift store. Like, to me, this would be something that you wouldn't want to get rid of. It's really well made. And it was only $12. Okay, so that was pretty good. So I have the $12 little Halloween tree with ornaments on it. I have a bomber jacket. I think it was like $35. And then the t-shirts, I think one was $10 and the other 2 was like $7.50. I was like, all right, that is a steal, to be honest. And I go up and I'm getting rung up, and the girl looks at me and we're just making like small conversation. I think it's really important when you go out in public, if the vibes are right, to talk to the people around you, to just like ask them how their day is, to smile. I think as a society, we are getting away from like those leisurely conversations, or it's just like acknowledging the human right beside you. But I was like a cashier, like that's a perfect person to like start a little small talk. So I was talking to her. I was like, she commented on my little Halloween tree, and she's like, wow, that's super cute. I said, yeah, I don't have very many Halloween I don't have very many Halloween decorations. And then she started talking about her Halloween decorations, etc., etc. Very great conversation. And then she goes, oh my gosh, you have a 20% or 15% discount that you can use. And I was like, oh my gosh, like absolutely apply that 20%, baby. I couldn't believe it. I was so lucky. I was like, why did I have this discount? She was like, oh, you've just spent a lot of money at a thrift store. And I was like, you're kidding me. But hey, like I'll take the kickback when I can get it. But yeah, so everything was 20% off, and I almost like talked myself out of all of the things, right? Like when I was picking things up and putting it in my car, I was like, oh, like this is cute. Can I imagine myself wearing it for more than one season? I'm trying to be so intentional with the things that I pick up and bring to my home. Like, am I going to want to have this forever? Am I going to get rid of it next year? Is this something that is going to fit me? Like all the things, right? Is it a good quality material item? And I've just been really getting super picky with the things that I'm bringing into my home, and also the way I'm spending my money and showing up and all of the things. And so I was even more excited about the 20%. That just goes to show that having loyalty is important. Garrett and I were booking hotels for this December because we have my sister-in-law's wedding, and so we were booking a hotel, and luckily I actually stayed at this hotel last year with Lily when we went and saw the Gals on the Go live podcast. And while we were there, it's like a super nice hotel, but I used points to book it, so I didn't have to pay anything for the hotel. And then we're getting put up in that hotel again. That's where their like reception is going to be. That's where their block is at. So we got we did our room assignment or whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to get like X amount of points. Now we can use those points to like do something else that we want, or like flight points. I really do. And I'm not talking about like credit card points. While I think credit card points are super amazing and good, personally for me, like the kickback from a credit card, I just applied to the statement, because usually a credit card percent is like 18%, but they only give you like 1% cash back. So why would I just want the 1% cash back if I'm paying 18? I never pay, but if I'm paying 18% on if like I don't pay my balance in full, then why wouldn't I take whatever cash back and just like apply it to the statement? Does that make sense? I don't know. Cashback points are amazing and good if you can get your credit card to work for you. I'm not a, financial advisor or anything. That's just my input, my thoughts on it. But for hotels and flights, I always try to use the same company, because if you rack up the points, it is so good, and you can end up getting like a flight for free. You have like a little account, everything is stored under, and I just really like the convenience of having a go-to. I feel like my parents definitely have like go-tos. They're like, oh, this is the hairdresser I've gone for X amount of years, or this is my tax advisor, I've had him for this amount of years, or whatever. Like they have a guy. If you think of like Pawn Stars, it's like, oh, I have a guy for that. Oh, like my buddy this, my buddy that. Like, again, people aren't staying in their jobs as long as they previously did. Like it was more common to have a job for, your entire career as an adult. Like, oh, I've been at this company for 40 years or whatever, right? And so you build that rapport and you build that trust, and that person is going to be there for a really, really long time. And I get that it's changed from then to now. Like we don't necessarily have that anymore, but I still think that it's fun, right? Like having a person or having a company or having something that you rely on, something that is familiar. And they always say like a customer is easier to save than to like get new customers. If you're in sales or anything like that, they always talk about like nurture the customers you have. Don't worry about getting more and more customers, because then like referrals will come. And I think that's so true. Like I have found really great service with the hotels that I've been staying at. And so I want to come back. I want to do it again. And then speaking of like having conversations with people, when I went to the airport for Scottsdale last weekend, I was sitting there, and I fly Southwest usually because again, I'm trying to get those points. I'm trying to rack them up and build that history with them. And so I was sitting there, and if you've ever flown Southwest, you know that Southwest has the option where you're able to pick your seat. So you check in 24 hours before your flight, you pick your seat, and it's essentially open seating, first come, first serve. So you check in, you get a number. It's like, I'm usually like B16. And so I'll be in the second group, like B, and I'll be the 17th person in group B to pick my seat. And I really like this option because as long as I'm on the ball, I'll be able to like pick whatever seat I want. But Southwest has been talking about doing away with this and instead like selling the seat. And so you buy the seat that you sit in, which there's pros and cons. And the couple beside me was talking about how they it wasn't going to be like this next time because they were discussing what number they were in the queue. And he's like, oh, I'm number A. They were A. They definitely upgraded. Like they were older than me, definitely more established, right? And they're like, I have A7. He's like, I have A13. And I'm like, I am B18. But I didn't say that. And they're like, yeah, Southwest is changing to where you purchase your seat. And I was like, yeah. And the one guy was like, I wonder why they're doing that. And I had heard that the reason they were doing this is because they were not getting as many upgrades because people just like were on the ball, got in line, and their like numbered position, they were just happy with their seats. And so I heard there was like a study done on Southwest in comparison to like other airlines and how other airlines were having more upgrades. And so with the upgrades comes more money. And Southwest was missing out on that higher opportunity for a person to want like a better seat. And to me personally, like, I don't really care what seat I sit in. I'm pretty easy to get along with. I usually am able to check in to my plane. I don't forget that I need to check in, except for that one time. I was literally the last person. But I don't really care where I sit on the plane. And I was talking to them. I was like, yeah, like I heard it was because of the upgrades. They're wanting more people to upgrade and opt in for that higher ticket. And then we just started talking, and I got to hear about kind of like some of their love story. They were talking about, oh yeah, normally we travel together, and there was one time we couldn't travel together, and I was on one plane, he was on another. He was flying from a work trip, and she wasn't able to go on that work trip for something or another, and then they were going to meet at a different location. Like, this couple definitely like traveled a lot. And he was like, oh yes, I never send me back. I think it was like, I can't even remember. His flight was super long. It was on the other side of the world or whatever. And he was like, yeah, that was the longest flight of my life. And then the woman's like, yeah, it was kind of cute because we normally travel together. And when you're with a person all the time, you don't get to miss them. You touch down, you're able to have your phone and make a phone call. But who am I going to call? Like, my spouse is right beside me. And she was like, that was the first time that it was really, really really, really cool how she gets off her flight, and then they met, and when she saw him, she like started to walk quickly towards him, and then they embraced, obviously. And which brought me to like rom-coms, like old rom-coms. And if you think about the airport, like airport security and everything has just changed so vastly in the last like 20 years. And if you take a look on how in the rom-com, if you watch like older ones, they will show the like person who made a mistake and is needing to run after the grand gesture, run after the love of his life, who is about to hop on a plane because she is going to be moving to a different state or out of the country or whatever. And he's rushing down and he's trying to like stop her before she boards her plane. I think about now, like you would have to go through security, you would have to have a plane ticket, because normally they want you to scan your boarding pass and have your ID, like all the things. And the old rom-coms, they would like run and try and stop them. It's just like a totally different world. And so we were talking about that, but it was like, oh my gosh, like what a good conversation. Like I love to just like talk to people out in public. Maybe it's because I do work from home, but I find that when you are open or available for conversation, like you put out a certain vibe, and people can pick up on that vibe, and they can chat back, or even like I've found, if I want to like push myself out of my comfort zone, make conversation with someone and just like give them a smile or say hello, or I hope that you have a good day. Like it could be so minuscule. It's just me having a conversation, making that like touch point of a person, like, hi, how's it going? Or I hold open the door. It literally does not matter. It is just me like seeing and perceiving, acknowledging this person in front of me. And whenever I do that, even if the person does not smile back, I try to make a positive impact. So if I'm saying, hey, like, I hope that you have a good day, or I give them a smile, they might not react the same, right? Like they might not register it. They might not return my wave. I know like when I'm driving, this is such a Midwest thing, but like on a county road, like to wave to the person passing you, that's like very Midwest. That's very much like everybody does it. You wave to the person who's passing you on the road, because county road, like it probably is one of your neighbors. So to just give a little wave. And even if that person doesn't see me wave, or that person that I hold open the door from, Target doesn't say thank you or anything, I know that I've made a positive impact. I know that I acknowledge this person. And sometimes that's all it needs. Like all you really need is someone to see you where you are at, say, hey, like I acknowledge you. You're important. Like, and I know that sounds like super, super deep to just like start a conversation with someone. But I try really, really hard. Like I got a commercial coffee the other day. I went to Starbucks. I had a gift card from my friend. She had a back to school sale for her boutique. And so I had that gift card on there. And while I was loading it in, I didn't realize I still had, because it's been so long since I've gone to Starbucks, I realized I had a balance of $5.96. And then I had the $5 gift card. I was like, okay, like I am going to go in, because if my order is slightly over the $5, or the $5.97, like I'll use the other one and I'll make it happen. I just want to like use up the balance. So I go in there, I'm talking, and I ordered a shaken espresso, no syrup, no classic syrup, and whole milk. So I got that. And she's like, okay, your order is $5.96. And I looked down and I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I have on my balance. And she took a moment and she like, I was looking, I was like, oh my gosh. And I flipped it around, obviously, and she goes to scan it. And as I was saying, I was like, oh my gosh, it's the same. It's the exact amount. And she scanned it and she's like, oh, you're right. Like, and I think it caught her off guard, because I started talking or whatever. This was like past our greeting, because obviously when I got there, she's like, oh, how are you? I said, I'm great. How are you? Whatever. It doesn't matter. And she's like, oh my gosh, like it is the exact amount. I was like, how lucky am I? Because I always try to acknowledge luck when I get it, because I want to attract more luck. I'm like, man, how lucky am I? And she's like, like, you are lucky. Enjoy it. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Anyway, so I got my Starbucks. It was good. It was great. It wasn't as good as at home, but during that moment, I need to get out of the house, right? Like, hey, I hope that you're enjoying today's podcast episode. Just a quick interruption to let you know that the Golden Hour Drip podcast has a monthly newsletter. You'll find podcast updates, upcoming events and information, and bonus content. If you haven't already, click the link in the show notes and join today. Now, back to the show. Like, we all have those moments where we are just so sick of the scenery around you. Like, I find that if I am staring at my computer nonstop and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, this is so much to consume, or I feel like I'm hitting a wall mentally, I need to get up. So that day I was like, I need to go to a coffee shop. I went over my lunch break, and already, like, I had made a coffee for myself that morning, and it was horrible. It was the worst coffee I've made in a really long time. I don't know what it was. I don't know if the beans are just like bad or whatever. So I quickly just ditched it. I dumped it down the sink, and as I was rotting at my desk, I was like, I need some fresh air. I need to get out. I need to drive somewhere. So over my lunch break, I drove to the coffee shop. I was like, all right, like, new change of scenery. I sat down, I got to work, and I ended up having like a really productive time. But the other thing that was really motivating me to get out of the house, and we'll move on to my pit now. My pit of the week is, I don't know what it was, but I had my regular nighttime bedtime routine. I took off my wedding ring, I took off my necklace, I had washed my face, especially because I'm dealing with all this acne, and I get into bed, I have my Stanley Cup, I put on my lip balm, I'm ready, okay, I'm snuggled into bed, I go to sleep, I have the best night's sleep, I wake up, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get dressed, all the things. I don't know what happened, but my necklace, I guess when I took it off, I broke it. It is a really, really delicate, small baby chain, and I love it. On the charm part is when Lily and I went to Chicago last year, I got we got our mom a little birthday gift, and it's a pendant. We all got the same pendant, and on the front it says our initials. It's a little monogram, and on the back we wrote a special note for our mom, and then on ours we wrote a special note to ourselves. So we have these really cute, amazing necklaces. And then for Christmas, Garrett got me a chain to go on it. I wear that thing constantly. I wear it every single day. It's my favorite thing. Is my, like, next to my wedding ring, it is my most prized piece of jewelry. And every time I like go down to touch it or I wobble it, I'm reminded of the beautiful memory of me and my sister getting them engraved. It's just like a Pandora charm. And we were able to like design it, and we signed our names next to my mom's note on the back of hers, and it was just like this really sweet thing. But then also I'm reminded that I'm not alone. I have my sisters, I have my mom, and so that it reminds me that I have family. And then the chain Garrett got me for Christmas, so I love it. I love it with all of my heart. And I don't know what it is, but it was broke, and I just... Okay, like, I don't want to, it's an inconvenience to get it repaired, right? And my first instinct was, I'll do this later. I'll just take care of this later. I will put it away. I'll just put on my wedding ring. I'll get over it. And the more I thought about it and was sitting at my desk, like, I went to grab it. And today I have a chain from my network, my social group meetup back in February. We had like a Galentine's Day, and we made these charm necklaces. And while I'm so grateful for this like memory, I know it's not my necklace. And so I went down to like tug on my chain, and I realized I forgot that it wasn't there. I said, we are going to the jewelers. I didn't know how much it was going to cost. I was like, oh my gosh, like, what if this is going to cost? What if they tell me it's, we can't fix it and I have to buy a new chain, like all the things, right? Like I just want my chain not to be broken. But sometimes like we can't do that. So I dropped it off at the jeweler. Not only was there a break in it, but there was also like another part that needed to be strengthened, like it had twisted. So I'm a little annoyed at that. But it's getting repaired. It's gonna cost like $58 or something is what she said I would have to pay when I got there. And I'm like, man, I need to be so nice to my jewelry. I need to be way better than I am. I have always been really, really tough on jewelry, and I mean, my wedding ring is my third wedding ring. So the first one, the prongs, I accidentally, like right after school, my dad needed some help. And so I was like, okay, like I immediately just grabbed my boots. I went to work in our hog lot and I had gloves on. I wasn't even thinking about it, but somehow my ring got caught and the stone was lost. And it was a sloppy march. So it was just so muddy, and we were trying to fix the fence so that they could go into the grassed area. And I couldn't believe it. And so I took off my gloves. Garrett like grabs my hand. He realized, he's like, oh, was it like, what, your ring? And it was such a mistake. So I lost my first stone. Then my second band, Garrett and I were unloading our entertainment center. We had just got it, was brand new. We were moving into our house, and I said, okay, I'm gonna take off my band and my ring, and I set it on top of the tailgate. So don't let me forget, I'm gonna take it off. I didn't want it to be bent or anything. I didn't want to break it. So I like put it on the back of the truck. We get the entertainment center inside, and then my downfall is we took a photo in front of it. I was like, oh, let's take a photo, like the house is coming together. And then we loaded up the boxes and we drove off with the wedding ring and my wedding band on the back. Luckily, somehow my dad and little brother were in the side by side, because we were hauling it to my dad's house to throw the garbage, the box, into his dumpster. And as we were driving, we were about a mile and a half down the road. I said, oh, my wedding ring. We searched, we looked, never found my wedding band, but my engagement ring, my dad and little brother did find somehow in the 2 mile, like it could have flung in the grass. Like it, seriously, I'm just so heartbroken. I can't believe that I did that. But ended up finding the engagement band. It was ran over. My stone was scratched. Luckily I was able to get a new ring. I felt so bad. So the ring on my hand is my third one. So I've definitely a menace to my jewelry. And I have had the same little Amazon hoops in my ears for the last like 3 years, or 2, 3. I think it's almost been 3 years of being in my ears. So I'm trying to be better about my jewelry. I would love to have something to pass down to my daughters or my sons one day, maybe. And I just think that would be really special. And here I just am wrecking everything. So I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to be more proactive, right? Like get my jewelry mended when it needs to be mended, not put it off. So that was my pet of the week. I was like, are you kidding? Just so annoying, so annoying. But this past week, I've been getting back on my goals a little bit. If you listen to Friday's episode, I posted like a little short episode, and I talked about how I was not prepared for this week. And I really have been trying to give myself grace around that and just know that I have a whole life to figure it out. And whenever I have big goals and big aspirations, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this and this and this and this. And it's easy if you fail for a couple days and you miss your mark. Maybe it's 3 days in a row and you think, oh, it is horrible, I'm terrible, I'm gonna throw in the towel, there's no point in continuing on. Well, that like all or nothing mindset is actually like not good. So instead of having a I have to be perfect or I can't do it at all mindset, I'm having we're gonna have grace, and I've missed a couple days trying to get back into routine, and that's okay. We're allowed to miss days, we're allowed to not be perfect. And so I allowed that feeling to pass, and then I tried to slowly get back on routine, incorporate small little goals here and there, and one of those is to read a book before bed. I try really, really hard to stay off my phone. I want, no cell phone before 7, and no cell phone after 7. So I want to be completely technology free. When I wake up at 5:36, I don't want to have my phone until 7. If I can push it off even further than that, that's great. Usually when I push off my phone, I'm able to like get dressed and make my bed instead of just being like, oh my gosh, like I've spent the last hour on TikTok, now I have to go to work or whatever. So I'm trying, that's like one of my big goals. And to help crowd out a habit that I have, the best thing to do is to start another habit to replace the feeling. And so instead of staring at my phone and consuming content in that way, I wanted to instead read a book. So I read It Ends With Us. My mom had let me borrow it. I often borrow books from my mom, and she let me borrow it probably over a year ago. And I remember her reading it, and she said there was a second one or whatever. I think she was in the middle of it, whatever it was. I had it on my bookshelf. And honestly, like Colleen Hoover is not an author that I've read before. This is my first Colleen Hoover book, I believe. I don't know, maybe not. I feel like she has definitely been gaining some momentum with It Ends With Us. And there is a lot of dialogue and conversation around it. And before I read the book, like I had been seeing stuff on social media, right? We all have, about Blake Lively and Justin, and of course with like Wolverine and Deadpool, and the mix of it, and how people were thinking that they were trying to do like a Barbieheimer situation. And honestly, like I knew that it was about domestic violence, and I had already heard like a few little spoilers, small ones, but I'd seen on social media. And so I was like, you know what, I am not sure if I'm gonna watch this movie in theaters, but I do think that I want to read the book, because there has been so much conversation about it, because everybody has been just like touching on this thing. I thought, I was like, oh, I think I have this book actually. I think I borrowed it from my mom. So I opened up my closet, lo and behold, I have the book. So I pulled it out. When I say I was captivated, I was captivated. It was not what I expected. And in some ways, it was exactly what I expected too. Like it was a very easy read. And when I say that, like it's easily digestible in the way that like the words, it wasn't confusing text. There's been some books where I'm like, this is so dense, I cannot get through it. It's not flowing. It's not making sense. It's really hard. There's a lot of characters. And while I will say It Ends With Us is a bit cheesy at points, right? Like a lot of conversation, and I'm not going to go into too many spoilers at all, but if this is not something that you want to talk about or discuss, if maybe this book is triggering to you in any way or whatever, or you don't want spoilers, or you don't want to hear my thoughts, I understand. I get it. And there's been so much conversation and dialogue about it, but in some ways, like when I say cheesy, it was, the main character's name is Lily Blossom Bloom. And that is very much like it's kind of on the nose, right? Like Lily is a flower, also my little sister's name. She has a podcast, go check it out. It's called The Green Frog. But Lily is her first name. Blossom is her middle name, and Bloom is her last name. So definitely, and she's also a florist, okay? She owns a little florist business. And so that's like a little cheesy, right? She also loves Ellen DeGeneres. And instead of like having flashbacks, like sometimes in a book it'll be flashbacks, the way that the flashbacks are, or like to give context of like what happened in the past, she uses it as reading old letters that she wrote to Ellen, like as fan mail, but instead of like actually sending them to Ellen, she just kept them, right? It was to make the conversation easier. Instead of being like, dear diary, it was dear Ellen. Like to her, it felt like there was more purpose around the letter. And I do like letters, like I like the concept of using a letter to go back into history. A movie that does this really well, I'm not sure if it was a book or not, but The Longest Ride, I remember watching that back in like 2015 or 2016 when it first came out in theaters, watching it with my high school friend, and we were watching it, and I just remember it being so cute, but not realizing that there's like flashbacks in the movie, and they did it by like the person reading letters. Another movie that does this really, really well is, oh my gosh, what is like the very tip, oh my gosh, this is completely falling out of my brain. But it is, oh my gosh, I can't even think of it. I'm so upset. It has Ryan Gosling in it, and that actress from Regina George. What is that? I am so mad. I could not think of it right now. But they also use letter. You know what I'm talking about, okay? It's a really, really old movie, and he built a house for her, and it's really sweet, really cute, and the old lady has dementia, and he reads the letters back to her to remind her of like their story. I need to rewatch that, honestly. It's been so, it's a Nicholas Sparks movie. And Nicholas Sparks in his own right was like very huge and big with his books. I don't know. I feel like a failure. I don't know what that is. Anyways, you're probably screaming it right now. But they also do like flashbacks in that aspect. And I think that's fun. I think that's a really great way to show the history behind it in a way that's not just like normal. So I did enjoy that. And then, well, this is a spoiler. Okay, so if you don't want to hear it, understandable. At the very, very end, she says like her daughter's name, and she has a baby, okay? She has a baby in the book. At the very end, she says her baby's name, and the middle name of this child is Dory. Dory. So it's Riley Dory. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like Dory from Finding Nemo, because that's Ellen DeGeneres' character in that. And I was like, okay, that's kind of cute, but also like, would I ever name a kid Dory? I don't know. I don't think so. But I read the book, and when I finished it, I did not sleep that night at all. Like, I did not, oh gosh, I don't know what that was, sorry. But I didn't sleep at all that night, and I stayed up reading it. I read the entire thing. There were a couple parts where I like had to put it down and then come back to it. I find like conflict in books is like, ooh, like shut the book really quick. And she actually mentioned that she does that in the book. She was like reading her journals, and there was a point that was like kind of hard, and she's like, ooh, I can't like complete this. I'm gonna come back to it. That was me. I was like, oh, this is sad. Like there was a part where it was like a bit of a climax, and I was like, oh, like that's really, really sad, in her journals. And I enjoyed the book. I was very pleasantly surprised, because I've heard so much controversy about Colleen Hoover and the content of her books. And this was, again, like the first one that I've ever read, so I don't have anything to compare it to. I feel like it was very realistic in a few ways, and gave me a perspective that I didn't quite expect. I don't really feel like I can talk on the like depth of the conversation. I know a lot of people are upset on how it was being portrayed, and from seeing other people like post on their social media about a certain scene, I'm not sure if I would like to see that in a movie theater. That might be something that I need to view at home. Maybe be able to pause it, maybe be able to like walk out of the room, or I often like to pause movies. Like last night we watched, I forget what it was, but we were watching something and I like had to pause it to let the dogs out, and then I had to like swap laundry, and then my sourdough was like done or whatever. So I quite often like pause a movie and come back to it. I really wish I could remember the movie with Ryan Gosling in it. I'm so upset that I cannot. Oh, it is like irking my brain right now. Anyways, so I got back on the reading grind, and I wanted to make sure that I was getting back on with my goals. And I've been auditing a lot of my life this month. And I think when you put goals down and you think to yourself, okay, this is what I'm going to work on, things that are preventing you from achieving those goals are going to pop up, right? Like you're going to get barriers in your way, and that happens. That's natural. Because you've never done it before, there's obviously going to be things that will pop up. And so when I'm thinking about my goals and thinking about the things that I want to be doing, one of them being I want to post a vlog every single Saturday. That's something that's so important to me. I love vlogging. I love to document and capture sweet moments. It's kind of like podcasting to me, right? And last Saturday I missed it because I was traveling and I was just so overwhelmed and I was doing a million other things. And August is like the first month I'm like, okay, like I'm posting a vlog every single week. And that was the first week that I missed. And so I thought to myself, okay, I'm not going to have this all or nothing mindset. Why did I actually miss it? And I missed it because I was overwhelmed. I was trying to do too much. And sometimes you have to like put things down in order to be able to even like go further, to take a second look and think, okay, like I'm not achieving this. Why am I not achieving it? And I've had to literally audit every single area and ask myself, okay, reading a book before bed, like why am I getting caught up? Like why am I not able to do it? And then all of a sudden I pick up It Ends With Us and I read it in an entire night, right? Like it's this ebb and flow. And while I don't want to be reading a book, like I don't want to be staying up, the whole point is that I wind down for the evening. And so maybe reading a book at the end of the night is not the best option for me. Maybe that like captures my attention too much and I need something that is even lower on the scale, something that is not going to distract me from going to bed. Because the whole reason I want to put my phone down is because I don't want the blue light to impact my sleep. I don't want to be captivated by what's happening in the next video or lose my time by paying attention to something other than, okay, I need to be settling down for bed. So maybe reading a book before bed is not the best option, or maybe I just need to have like a book that I'm not as interested in. Maybe I was very interested in this book just because everybody had been talking about it. But like 10,000 Steps, like that is something that I've talked on for the last as many years as I've had this podcast, right? Like we're in year 4 of this podcast, and I talk about 10K steps and trying to get my step count up and being active. And I take a look at my daily routine. Like, if I'm missing my step count, why am I missing my step count? Is it because I need to be going to bed earlier so that I can wake up earlier, right? Like all your habits and all of your goals stack upon one another. So if I'm thinking, oh, my step count was like kind of low, how can I like carve more time out? How can I make up time to go for a walk, to get my steps in? Maybe I need to wake up a little bit earlier. Maybe for my lunch break, I need to go on a walk, or I need to use my walking pad. Like finding those funny little ways to make sure that I am achieving my goals and what I'm working on. I've also kind of been like going through the things that I've set down for a while. Maybe the hobbies that I've taken a break on, or something that I used to really love doing, and ask myself why I'm not doing that anymore. So in my podcast room, I have a huge closet, and in the closet is all of my hobbies, my goals, right? Like I have my paper crafts in here. I store my books in this closet. I have my sewing machine. I have my gift wrapping stuff. I have Golden Gal Network things. Like I have everything in my little closet. And I was looking at my sewing machine, and after like several videos on my TikTok, I saw people, this one girl, her name is like Lulu Sews, and she made like a baby quilt. I think because I had posted a TikTok about going to a baby shower, maybe it was like pushed to me, but she did it in a way that was like so interesting. I've seen baby clothes be cut into little squares, and then they sew like a ragdoll quilt is what it's called, I think. I don't know, but it's like a million little baby squares, and you sew them together in a dress, or I'm sorry, you sew them together in a quilt. I've also seen like sweatshirts where people have like mama and embroidered in it or whatever. Super, super cute. And how she did the baby clothes, what caught my attention is she kept the shape of the baby clothes and just like laid them on a white sheet. She had her batting, and she sewed the clothes on top of the, she uses like a sheet, and the way she did it, I was like, oh my gosh, like I think I can do this. And so I went to her page, I saw that she had done a t-shirt quilt, and something that I have been putting off for literally years. I've been collecting my high school t-shirts, all 4 years, going into college, all 4 years of college. I was like, I want a t-shirt quilt, and they were huge. Like I remember at the graduations, people would hang their t-shirt quilt, things like that. I never had a t-shirt quilt. And so I was like, this is something that I want to do for myself, because I didn't realize until I went over to my dad's, but my tote was massive. I was like, oh my gosh. But looking at my sewing machine in my closet, I thought, is that something that I can be doing? Is this a hobby that I can pick back up and spend some time doing and creating, and maybe even having space for my mind to think and to process? Because I want to have that time to be stoic. I want the time to think and allow my brain, sometimes people call them like shower thoughts. When you're in the shower, you don't have your phone, you don't have anything else. It's just you and your brain and thinking about things. And as we go into the fall, I know we're still a month out from fall, but as I go into the fall, I am thinking, okay, like I've not done a quilt because I always get overwhelmed. I'm like, oh gosh, like I'm gonna start this quilt, and then it's gonna have to be finished, and I only have 2 months, and then it's gonna be spring, and all the things, and I put this pressure on myself instead of having it of just like, this adds to my life when I don't want to consume content, when I don't want to watch my favorite YouTuber, or watch the new movie, or listen to a podcast, or scroll on TikTok, or maybe even like read a book. Because reading a book, sometimes you have to be so still, you have to concentrate on the words, and sometimes your mind has like so many thoughts. And like, you know what, sewing is something that I really did enjoy as a kid, and so I want to incorporate that more. And because I've been doing an audit of my clothing, there's a couple sorority shirts that I'm not wearing anymore, and so I'd like to incorporate them into the quilt. I just need more room in my closet, so it's like, it's time to put these into a t-shirt quilt. And so just like looking at the areas of your life and thinking, what can enhance it, what can recalibrate things. Because after this past week, I have felt so out of sorts, and I've just been really dialing down and thinking, okay, like where can I be spending my time, where can I be maximizing my time. And if I'm really wanting more time for thinking, more time to allow my head to clear, or maybe I have a problem in my personal life or my business or whatever, where I need to mull over the question and I need to think about like all the different options that I might have, I think that sewing would be a really good option for me, or reading. I can't believe that it's already, we're in the second half of August, and I feel like this challenge of my goals has been so good for me because I know where I'm missing the mark. I know where I thought it would be easy and it's actually not as easy as I thought it would be. And then finding those ways, because it's not just the next 31 days. It's not just the next 60 or this year or next year. It's your life. And so having like this all or nothing mentality has just not been serving me. And so I'm trying to figure out, okay, if this is not working, what will work? Like I still have this goal. I still have this aspiration. So if it's not a book, maybe I sew before bed and then I go to bed, or maybe I do a different craft that is more quiet for my mind and then I'm able to go to bed. So it's a constant evolution of things, and maybe you're in the same boat. I hope that this podcast was helpful or entertaining. I hope that you like it. And I mean, you've listened this far, so make sure you like, subscribe, all of the things. It means the world to me. We're on YouTube as a visual and of course all the audio podcasts. Thank you for listening, watching, whatever. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.